Hello there. This is Ed Smith with Universal Digest, and I'm with my friend and talk show host of KCOR Radio and other networks, David Emmons. We got together a few months ago, and it's been a very interesting ride. He invited me on to my first of a number of talk show series, and he actually invited me to be a co-host with him once. Not only did I find it enjoyable, we've shared so much now. It's like we're brothers in arms. Well, some very interesting things have been happening in his condominium in Illinois, and we wanted to share this with the public as a YouTube video. And I have walked with Dave every step of the way on this and seen these events happen from day one. And as a friend, yes, one thing I'm partial, but number two, as an objective investigator in ufology, this is real. So, bearing that in mind, I'll introduce Dave Emmons here, and I'm going to let him explain a little bit about himself, and he's just going to go right through with all the events as we have seen them. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Ed, and the Universal Digest for allowing me to have this little expose, I guess you can call it, a brief expose of what part of my history has been with UFOs and ETs, and also my new happenings, events that's happened in the last couple of months, and we'll go over those in a historical chronological order. Yeah, my name's Dave Emmons. I am a host on KCOR Radio, and I've done a lot, I guess about 200 hours of radio since last summer on interviews. So I've been through quite a bit of this, and my events are very, I guess I've had a lot of events. They're hard to explain, but they're also, it takes a long time to explain them and talk about them. I'm going to briefly go over my history, on my past history, real brief. I started at 14 years of age. Best friend and I saw a UFO shaped like a little toy top, and we walked up to an empty lot and we took a look at this thing. We stood there and we saw it. It had 3 layers, about 30 feet wide and about 15 feet tall. And we were looking at it for about, we thought forever, but it ends up, we probably looked at it longer than we thought, because when we got home, we got in trouble, and there was some missing time between 10:30 p.m. This is when it was just right out of school in May or June, sometime in that month area. But we both saw it together, and we still talk about it today. So I've had a witness with that, and there was windows, or what you would call portals, on the second layer of this thing. It looked like one of those old, I guess you could call Hitler models of UFOs. If you've seen the documentaries, it kind of looked like a little pudgy thing with 3 layers, and on top it had antennae. But I didn't see any of the ETs through these, I guess, fogged up portals, these windows. So I was afraid that I was going to see something. And when you're young and when you're used to seeing all these horror movies, like Mars Invades and everything, you get really afraid of this stuff. But something happened, missing time. A month later, I found something that wasn't supposed to be in my left testicle. I dug it out. There was a line cut there for it, and I pulled it out, and it looked like a little Advil tablet. And as I had it out, it was ashen color, real light, and then it turned dark. I give it to my mom, and she said, "That's some kind of an ingrown hair." I said, "No, Mom, it's not." I said, "There was a hole cut for it, not a hole, but a line." And I said, "I pushed it out of that cut line. It looked like now that I know it's a laser line in which they cut it and put it in, but there's no blood." So that was a follow-up fact. I didn't have any experiences till I went through the military. I was a combat veteran. Also had some top secret time in which I got out of. It was nuclear weapons training. And so I got out of that school and went into something else, because I didn't like the every week with the military intelligence people coming in and talking to us. So for a 20-year-old, 19, I just about turned 20 at that time. That was a little too much. And I had a good average, 89%, and I had to get out of it through the chaplain. So that was my stint of top secret. So I wanted to clear that up, that I was the one who got out of that, and the Army didn't like it too much because they spent a lot of time on me on that, and I feel bad about that too. But I got out, did a fine job in Vietnam, and I was offered a commission before I was discharged, and I turned it down. So then I played music, and then I worked, and I went to school. I got my college in journalism, so I've been taking notes on all this stuff and taking pictures, and The pictures that I can take, the ones that are older, I didn't have pictures. The newer ones now, I do have pictures. In '96, I'm kind of going through this real quick, and I won't explain all the history. We're going to get to the new stuff because Ed's got some pictures and some videos he's going to flash up there when I get to that point. But in '96, I saw my first little gray, about 3.5 feet tall. And I went out. I didn't know what happened. I believe there was samples taken, DNA, blood, semen samples. And I know there's semen samples because later on there was proof of the pudding of it when I met a hybrid Japanese gal in Sedona in 2010. And the events really started occurring in '09 through 2012, and which was really, I guess, in those 3 years, I went through a lot of things. I met a hybrid lady in Sedona, Arizona, spent some time with her, and then about 6 months later, her and two other younger Japanese people come up to my door in Godfrey, Illinois, from Sedona, and this was 6 months later. And I guess she was showing me the grandchildren. I guess I'm trying to figure this out, but she stood down the road, turned her back so I couldn't see her. But they dumbed my cousin and I down. We were on the porch, so I got witnesses to that. So we were dumbed down, couldn't say a word. And these two were talking kind of gibberish like, and they were looking at us mostly. They were taller than the average, I guess, Asian Japanese, but they left and they disappeared. We didn't see them. So that's part of that story. These are just going to be bits and pieces that I'm going to tell you. And then my big, I guess, one abduction. I've had 3 or 4 abductions that I know about that I was conscious, but the one big one was one afternoon, about 1:30, I felt really tired. And this is how they operate. They hit you with magnetic energy. They're in their house because they're invisible. And I've been finding that out more and more. These things are invisible and they're in your house when they want to be. You can call them poltergeists, ghosts, or whatever, but they could be mixed up with all dimensional beings or whatever. But what happened, I was laid there in bed, just resting my back. I wasn't asleep. All of a sudden, I heard a bunch of shocking things like you step on cracker boxes and a noise that a cracker creates. It's kind of like a crackling static sound. I turned around and all of a sudden I was hitting my shoulder with this energy and it knocked me straight and I couldn't move. And then I tried to move again and it hit me again. And I finally just laid there and I was moving my fingers, my eyeballs, and I heard my sister's voice say, "Come on, Dave, you can do it. Come on." And I said, "Do what, Sissy?" That was her name. And she said, "You can do it." And I told her come to the door and she didn't. So that was a kind of a paranormal thing because she was dead 4 years before that happened. So I heard a voice from the grave actually. And did she come through the dimensional shield that the ETs broke when they were going through this? And then I felt a baby's hand in my fingers. They allowed me to feel it was a real baby's hand. And then something sat down beside me that's heavy. And then I was starting to blow my mind. And I jumped up and I said, everybody talks about, okay, scream out God or Jesus whenever you're in that kind of a trouble. I did. I said, "Oh, God, help me." And then about 4 or 5 seconds later, it all stopped and this thing got up and I guess took off. And that was an abduction. They told me, Dr. David Jacobs told me, he said, "That's not when you're being abducted. That's when they're bringing you back with those electric shocks. They're kind of delivering you back where you belong." I said, "Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I got it backwards then." But now I guess with all these events was 3 or 4 abductions that I realized happened when I was conscious. And then the 5 UFOs I've seen up close, I saw a giant triangle. This was in 2011. My mom and 2 brothers also saw it. They witnessed it. It covered the whole neighborhood, about 9 houses long on the street. And they went directly right over me. And I was standing in my driveway. And it's about 8:30 at night, kind of cloudy. And this thing was huge. And so I saw the underbelly of it, and I can explain what it looks like, down to the groove, down to the center, the big vent slat that's in the middle that usually lights up and turns red when people see them in normal flight. And then the bright lights on the tails of each of the triangle parts. I saw all that. And then the other one I saw was one to come over me on a highway in 2012. I was coming from Springfield, Illinois on Highway 55, and one crossed right over my car. I looked up and it looked like a smaller disc type UFO, but it was like glassy looking at the bottom. It had light and it looked like a pie cut, like four or five pie cuts with a dark center. And I saw that one. Then I saw what you might call a drone. I was at a refinery and I was playing lead man that day. And I was up inspecting equipment, and I saw this thing that come towards me. It was bright, shiny, silver-like thing. It didn't have no nuts, no bolts, no cabin crew, no sound. So it looked like it was just poured metal, and it was about 15 feet wide at the wings, and about probably 15 feet long, and it had one vertical tail, I guess rudder they call them, but it didn't move. There wasn't anything that's moving on this craft. It moved silently by me. And that's the other one that I saw that was very strange. And then the other one I saw was kind of related to a tic tac. I was on a highway, and it was kind of parallel following me on the other side of the woods. And I saw it. I kept watching it. And then all of a sudden I felt really tired. I felt like I was being hit by that magnetic energy, which I call dumbed down. So when they dumbed me down, I pulled off the side of the road because I didn't want to drive any longer, because I felt like I was leaning on my steering wheel. And I'm lucky, I guess the cop didn't come by, and he probably thought I'd be drunk, but no, I was actually drunk on magnetic energy. And they didn't take me or anything. They left me there, but what they were doing was uploading and downloading, and they made me just relax so they can do what they wanted to do overhead. Now, this can be done anywhere. These ETs are millions of years ahead of us, and they know how to manipulate our minds. They know how to put, I guess, false faces in your dreams, or false faces whenever they take semen samples. They did that to me one night too. So with that history being rammed in there real quick, and I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you did a great job. Thanks.
Ed, we'll start on the new stuff, because the new stuff right now is something that I didn't expect to happen. It started happening February 5th and this year, and it ran through till about I guess about the middle of March or so, about the 21st of March, about 4 or 5 weeks. And Ed, what's the first one you got pulled up for us?
Well, and thanks a lot. And thank you for the really comprehensive history in a short period of time. We were trying to keep the video as short as possible for the viewers, because there's so much information and so many things that has occurred to you, Dave, that we did want them to know. And now we'll share the first one that I named the reptilian, the raw video, and then we'll go to the enhanced version, and you can explain as we go along.
Okay. Okay, this was taken on February 6th. As you'll notice at the top, you can see it looks like really stubbly black hairs, and that's what they were. They were stubbly hairs, because I heard from several other people that seen reptilians that they do have stubbly hair on their chin, on their cheek. So this thing was actually sideways. Now you see his eyes. You'll see an eye there to the bottom left. And that's a little dark, but it's hard to see on that one.
Rolling it for you one more time.
Okay. Okay. If you pay attention to the top of the frame, you'll see where what he's doing. He's flinching his facial muscles, because he's looking at the red diodes on my trail cam that was set on my kitchen table inside my house. And there he raises up, and there's his eye. He looks into the camera, and then he's gone. So the people asked me, so why did you put the trail camera in your house to begin with? Well, the night before, my sensors were going off. And when the sensors were going off 5 times in one night and nobody was there, and my burglar alarm works very well. I almost called the police, but I didn't. I checked it out for myself. So I thought to myself, since I've had ET experiences, I thought they're back. That's the first thing I thought about. They're back. So the next night, Ed's kind of pointing out the shininess of the eye at the left-hand corner. We're trying to actually get this video more cleaned up and trying to find somebody that can do it, but we managed to enhance a couple of them. But the reason why I had it out, like I said, the night before, I had this thing playing with my alarm system, and it works well. So I did this to capture what was going on in my house. This is the top again. This is where you see the black bristly hairs. Now he turns, and there's his eyes right there. He's blinking twice. You can see his eyelashes and his yellow eye. He's got a yellow goldish eye color. Here we go again. The top portion is the dark stubbly hairs, and that has to be his chin and his jaw, that he's kind of turned his head on the side, onto the right side, and he's looking at the camera, probably looking under it and looking around the camera to see what it's about. There's his eye again. He flashes twice. You can see the eye, and you can actually see the tear duct where it's shiny. And that's the if you pay close attention to the left-hand corner, the last 4 seconds, you'll see where this eye opens and closes twice. And there's his face, his facial stubble on his chin, and his face, side of his face. And there he is. There's the eye blinking twice. There he closes his eye, and that's the color of his skin. It's dotted with rough skin. I would imagine you call it reptilian. I've had several people look at this thing, and of course the video is kind of hard to really see unless it's explained to you, just like I did there. Pay attention to the top and then to the bottom left-hand corner. And when I saw that morning, the next day, when I got up on the 6th and I saw this, I said to myself, oh my God, it scared me to death. I had to look at it 4 or 5 times to really make it out. But when he looked at the corner, the left-hand corner, and he looked at me, I thought he was looking at me and telling me something, or trying to tell me something with his eyes. Like, I'm in control, I'm in here. He walked past the door, but mind you, he walked past the door and he walked past 2 sensors in my house, inside of my house. Nobody understands it. They think it's outside. No, inside of my house, in my kitchen, on top of the kitchen table is where the camera was at, because I wanted to catch something coming through the doors or coming up to my bedroom. And I did catch things. So this reptilian, that next night after those alarms went off, I know they was playing with me. They were saying they're back. So I got ready for them with a camera this time. Ed, we got the next shot.
Yes, we're going to do the screenshots of the Michelin Man, if you want.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the Michelin Man, I didn't know anything about it until I had a MUFON investigator in Missouri. I guess I can mention his name. He
Sure.
wouldn't mind, but he's a nice guy, and he's a good investigator. Joe Palermo. I sent him the photos and the video, just like I did Ed here, my good buddy Ed Smith. I sent him, so I wanted an unbiased opinion, and both of them come back with opinions that scared me. I said, okay, is that a little gray in this camera that I've got? And they both said, Joe said, no, Dave, you got a reptilian there. And he also told me about the Michelin Man, because Joe interviewed a colonel, an ex-colonel, I guess he retired colonel, and he was in the Air Force, and he said he remembers working with Michelin men, and what they are usually basically the tall whites that have these uniforms on that have concentric circles on them. Now people are saying, yeah, that could have been you in the tall socks and stuff. Here's the picture here, I think, of the Michelin Man looking into the camera himself. You can see the chin on the right-hand side. He's turning sideways, but you can't see his eyes. And even in some of the pictures, you don't see, all you see is a blurred face, but his chin and his neck is on the right side, and he's looking into the camera too.
And by the way, bear in mind, these dates are not correct, because you had not set the timer, or date function.
Right. The trail cam was stuck in 2012. That's when I was using it in Alaska. And I tried to set it back 3 or 4 times. It kept going back to default, and I didn't know why it did it. I don't know if it was the visitors causing that or not. But the dates are February 6th through March 21st of this year, 2020. So never mind those dates at the bottom of the stamped on by the trail cam. Now this picture is kind of hard to make out. This one here looks like we got a front facial of it. You can see an eye on one side and an eye socket on the other side. This one here is not conclusive to Ed or I. I know Ed's been going over these things, but these are pictures we can't really declare. But this matches with what the Michelin Man looks like. He's bright and shiny white. Now.
And by the way, I did have an experience where I did see a tall white in Los Angeles County in 1986. So we're both experiencers. This is the one with your orbs, Dave.
Right. The top. This is the video.
No, I did only played some of the images.
Okay.
Time, so.
All right. The orb is at the top, in the middle of the frame, at the very top. It's shooting across the ceiling, and that's happened several times. I got about 4 pictures of those orbs streaking across. And as you also notice, I have a good Bushnell infrared trail camera, and this thing works very well. And if there's no movement, it will not shoot. But it's shooting something that has movement. So these orbs are causing it to shoot. nothing else in the picture. So the orbs are kind of letting this camera know that something's in the room.
And bear in mind, there are no heater vents or anything else anywhere nearby.
Right. There's now, and heater vents were actually going the other direction. They wasn't going that same direction. Now, in this picture, you'll see to the far left top, you'll see a little blur. It's a little blur up against the wall. Now, this was, I think, the Michelin Man looking around at the camera, and it's a shadow figure. That's what they call shadow men, I guess, because a lot of people see shadows, and it could be the Michelin Man right there. That's the blur. Now, watch the next frame. Oh, okay. Now that's the next frame.
This is a control picture we did, Dave.
Oh, that's control picture. Okay.
Yeah. See, there's nothing there.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's. But there was one that he backed off in the next set, the next frame. He kind of jumped back real quick. Yeah. Yeah. So that he left the shadow, but there's another orb that's a streaking orb. They seem like they're coming from the same direction, but as I say, the ventilator is not the ventilator. I'm thinking too much virus now, and that's on everybody's mind. I'm sorry, but the vent is at the far end of the room, and it's actually going across the vent.
Right here.
Yeah, right there, and it's actually going across the vent, so it's not any of the air ducts or anything that's blowing out any.
This is your stairway opening to your upper floor.
Right, that stairway. There's no post at the bottom. There's no rail on the left-hand side. It just at the wall there, and then there's a rail on the right-hand side, in which you can't see in any of the frames.
Now, this was a control picture for the orbs.
Right.
We saw streaking by. Let me see if there's another here. And there he is.
Yeah, there's the Michelin Man on your far right. It's the white figure on the far right of the frame, and people saying, well, that's you in your socks or pants. I don't wear pants inside the house. I wear shorts, and I can show you control pictures of me going up the stairs. It actually shows my skin tone and what I'm wearing. It shows me in my face and everything in color. I have some control pictures of that, but I don't know if they're in this.
I've seen it, and I really don't want to share it with the viewers.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But that's the
I couldn't resist. Sorry, Dave.
I wouldn't win a beauty pageant. Okay, but here's the
a little bit.
Here's the second picture in the series of the Michelin Man on the far right. He moved. You can see that he took a step up on the stairs, and he moved up the stairs 1 or 2 steps. Now the camera was shooting every 3 seconds, so it took 3 stills of this Michelin Man on the right hand side, and it took shots every 3 seconds. So he stepped up, and then now there's the last in the series. That's his head sticking out around the wall, looking back down at the camera, like he's kind of playing with the camera. He knows it's there. But I tried this same stunt when I got up about 4 or 5 steps. I tried to look back around the wall, and I couldn't do it because I almost fell. Just trying that, I thought, wow, he must be tall and slender, and he's a lot taller than me. So this is what it looks like at the right top of your frame. That's the picture of his head, and that's the picture of the head we had earlier in the camera.
Then this is another viewpoint of it, of the raw image you had.
Right. Yeah, that one there is not decipherable, but it's there. It's weird. It's just an addition to all that. Yeah, that's the same thing. I can't figure this one out. I looked at those two.
More like a blur.
Yeah, but the rings don't line up to what that's when he got into the camera, and I guess looking at it, he comes off as a white blur. I guess he's got a really it's a white suit that's got the concentric rings around it. You got 2 rings, 3 rings. And then up to all the way through the body, and that's why they call it the Michelin Man. But he's not big and roly-poly. It looks like from the real Michelin Man, but they just call it that because of the rings and the white suit. That's basically where that comes from.
Very good. Okay, excellent. And then this was the light that came through where there's no way headlights or anything can do that.
Right. Sometimes there'd be bright lights in the room. I think that's when they come in and out. And it looks like at the bottom, at the far right of the frame, that's where the bottom of the steps are at. I've noticed that this Michelin man, he comes in to that point because I don't see him in any other way. But he was on the left-hand side at one time, but now I believe he beams in on the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, this is the one you told me too. There's no parking out front or anything like that, or the side. And at that point, you notice the just direct energy hitting the ceiling above, and then of course bouncing off the walls here to your stairway.
Yeah, I wish I had an approximate time on my camera, but like I said, it keeps setting itself into default, and I got tired of messing with it after 4 times of trying to reset it. But it's such a good camera, I wasn't going to push it aside because of that problem. Yeah.
And by the way, you and I have, researched the Bushnell cameras, this type of camera, the type of variety it is and the quality of it. It is very good. And there's a lot more that we could add, but this gives you a kind of an introduction, folks, and the essence of what we've been talking about and what he's been experiencing. And meanwhile, his wife was in the Philippines for this. So.
Yeah, she was going. I was by myself, and maybe they thought this was a good time to visit me. It was on February 5th, and then the 6th is when I saw the Michelin man. But that was scary. I imagine anybody that's in a house and something comes through your door, comes past sensors, and then into a camera, and they look like they do. Scary, very scary. And I couldn't sleep that night. I was very scared. Normally you'd think, well, I've had so many experiences that maybe I shouldn't be, but I don't care if you had a lot of experiences. Each experience will scare you because you don't know the outcome of that experience. So I still, I get worried about it a lot. I'm very protective with the wife, and I prayed for them not to have this being evil or negative, and I wanted to keep it out of the house. So apparently they stopped after, it's been 2 weeks now they stopped. But I want to show my appreciation for Ed. Ed Smith is a great guy, and he knows about the UFOs, and that's why we're working together. But he does current events on his writing, his Universal Digest, and so this is something that I would appreciate that he's doing this for me. And we're going to be on radio probably more, and we're going to do some shows. I'm trying to line up other things, but. If you listen to my shows on KCOR, I get into different subject matter, but this is something I just wanted to shoot out there real quick.
Well, I really appreciate it. And the owner of KCOR Radio Network, of which you and I have done 3 shows so far in 2 networks. So bear in mind too, folks, this is during the coronavirus crisis. And I was on Daily with Dave when he was going through the throes of trying to contact the State Department to get his wife back from the Philippines because it was a level 4 shutdown of the country. And now that she's back, a lot of these events have quelled a bit. And knowing Dave as I do it, I have asked, cross-referenced, and investigated with many questions. I wouldn't be standing or sitting here talking with all of you now had I not been an experiencer, number 1, which makes it easier for me. And number 2, we have just pretty much daily gone through this together. He chose me to talk to about it. We've built a very solid, sincere friendship, and I appreciate the fact that he found me, discovered me, and has been putting me on radio. And we will be in contact more, folks, but this I hope you find interesting. And Dave, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close this one?
Not really. It's but take a close look at the videos. You have to pay attention to the top of the screen and then to the bottom left of the screen. Those are the 2 areas you want to check out with this with the reptilian. The Michelin man is self-explanatory. If you click it 3 times, you'll see him actually walking up the steps. If you click them back to back, and you'll see him at the top and looking back. But yeah, we got pictures of orbs. We've got videos of those, and we got
more than this.
Yeah, we got several more pictures, but in the time frame we want to do this, and then spitting out my history like I did. I have a lot more history, and I talk about this on radio. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on KCORE. I've done some shows there. You can look up Dave Emmons UFOs on I guess YouTube and find a lot of interviews that I've had. So that'll catch you up on that. And I want to thank you people for checking us out. And my name's Dave Emmons. My good buddy here is Ed Smith, a great guy and a smart guy.
Well, thank you, Dave. And just briefly, folks, we're still investigating more information, including audio versions, that we want to get more determinations through voice printing and voice analyses through other friends and colleagues we know. So that being said, thanks again, Dave, for going through things so quickly and lightly, but it's a great introduction, and I really appreciate your time. And the world is our oyster, folks. All you have to do is stay positive. Right now, we are all encountering very strange events on Earth, and let's get past it and have some fun very soon. Thanks a lot for watching.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, audience.